I once walked into a luxury Dior store and the customer service manager approached me. I said, sorry, I'm not buying anything today, just killing some time. She said, great. Would you like a juice or a champagne? I stood there scratching my head because why would she treat me like every other customer even though I wasn't buying something? And the reason is very simple. Even though she lost a sale that day, she gained a customer for tomorrow. You are listening to the Street Cred podcast, the show laser focused on helping you turn your streetwear side hustle into a full-time career. I'm Elijah Delport. You might be listening to this and thinking, I've heard this episode before. And it's true, I've shared that Dior story before, but today I want to take a bit of a different angle on it. And it's very specifically about the fact that Dior goes for customers, not sales. And if you want to win, if you want to play the long game, you must go for customers and not sales. And later on, maybe I want to share some ways that, like the practical ways, what does it actually look like to go for customers instead of sales? Just like in that story, the sales are today. The sales are the short term. It's the money in and out of the account, But the sales, but the customers, they're the people that generate the sales. And from one customer can come many sales. And that's one of the fundamental reasons why you'd want to go for customers, not sales. And so it always leaves people confused about when I share these concepts with streetwear brand owners. I say, instead of posting your product, post value content, post entertainment, education, inspiration. This is how you market a streetwear brand and grow a community. They say, Elijah, what are we doing? I'm selling a product. And I think it always comes back to, are you going for sales or are you going for customers? Because marketing your product might get you a few sales. Doing some ads might get you a few sales. However, if you want customers, you have to attract people, not just credit cards. And that's a totally different strategy. I want to share with you the Chet Holmes pyramid. And this guy's a sales strategist. He's an absolute genius when it comes to marketing. And he has influenced my thinking greatly when it comes to going for customers instead of sales. And so he breaks down the market as follows. So the top 3% are actively seeking to buy your product or service. When I say the top 3%, that's the top 3% of people that are within your market, right? Then you have the next 7% who are open to buying but not actively looking, right? So all in all, that's the first 10% are really the only ones that are actually thinking about buying your product, your clothing product in a real way, right? Then you have the next 30%, and they're not thinking about buying your product, but they're not opposed to it. So it might take some convincing, but they're not a hard no. And then you have the next 30% after that, and they think they're not interested and they need significant convincing. And then finally, you have the bottom 30%, which are almost certain they are not interested and they are very highly unlikely to be converted. Now, the truth is that people and customers and audience members can move through these percentile segments. So just because someone's in a bottom 30% today doesn't mean they're always there. Just because they're not interested and very unlikely to be converted today doesn't mean they're going to stay there. Because in time, if you work at going for customers, not sales, then it's almost sure that they're going to move through the percentile to eventually become within the top 10 percentile who are open to buying but not actively looking, or the top 3 who are actively seeking to buy your product or service. And that gets the point where you have the power as a brand owner. That's how you create hype. You need an audience that's not just, I could, not really thinking about it, but if you provide something, but it's like, if you want to build hype, you need the 3% of the audience who are actively seeking to buy your product or service, right? So the thing is, when you go for sales instead of customers by posting only your product, you only reach the top 3% of your market. Very simply, think about it like this. Who is your product-focused content directed towards? It's people that want to buy a product. Otherwise, why would you create it? You want people to buy a product, so you want people to buy your product, so you make content for people that might buy your product in hopes that they're going to buy it and you're going to make some money, right? Thank you, Captain Obvious. But my point in this is showing you Chet's dynamics, his pyramid for the market. You only are ever going to be targeting 3% of your potential customers by implementing a strategy like that. And so that's why I encourage people to post value content. Why? Because it's not polarizing. In fact, it's the opposite. It's inclusive. Value content, when you're educating, entertaining, and inspiring, as opposed to promoting or advertising, what you're essentially doing is saying, hey, even though you might not be ready to buy today, I still want you to stick around because there's something here for you. Very simple, right? And what is that doing? The entire purpose of this podcast, it's all about going for customers, not sales. This is the very same strategy that Nike uses when they create content all about sports, about their athletes, and about, well, coaching and educating people around surrounding topics on motivation, on sleep, on recovery, on diet. Right, I watch some of these long form videos on their YouTube channel, for example, or even their podcast. They have a podcast called Trained. And I listen to some of these episodes, and anyone could listen to them and think, why is Nike creating something like this? Why are they making these videos if they're not going to talk about their product, if they're not going to sell their product, XYZ? It's really confusing if you don't understand the thinking behind it, because the truth is that anyone can it's kind of clear that a company is not going to go and do something that's not going to make them return on investment, because that would cost them time and money to do something like that. But the reason why they're doing it is because they're going for customers, not sales. That is their objective at the end of the day, because they understand that they can build a customer base that is supplying all of the sales. So the next question is, if you want to implement this strategy for yourself, but you're not Nike and you're not Dior, what can you do? Okay, so you don't have a brick and mortar store. You also don't have a crazy amount of resources to create the plethora, the incredible amount of content that Nike does. So what do you do today? Well, look, I always encourage, dream some ways, think of some ways, find some ways that you can provide to your value to your specific target audience in a way that doesn't polarize them if they're not ready to buy right now. And it's totally okay, because remember the point of why we are doing this. Even though you lose a sale today, you gain a customer for tomorrow. And that, at the end of the day, is more valuable than anything. So think about ways you could educate, entertain, and inspire your audience. It does require you to choose a specific niche, because if you don't, well, how can you provide value if you don't know who's receiving the value? Because value looks different for different people. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Content about sports is not going to be interesting to people who play video games, right? For the most part. And so you need to define your specific audience, then dream of ways that you can provide value through the content that you create, through entertaining, educating, and inspiring. And then in this way, you will capture your customers and create an audience around what you're doing. All right, that's it for this episode. Thanks very much for listening. If you're a regular listener to this daily podcast, I want to very quickly say I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. There's people that have left comments on this podcast on YouTube. People have sent me emails about this podcast, and to all of you, I just want to say thank you very much. If you've left a comment, I really appreciate it, because that to me. You have to go out of your way to do that. And I just want to let you know that doesn't go unseen. And I really do appreciate it. It makes my day when I see comments like that. Another thing before I leave you to go enjoy the rest of your day, a PSA, public service announcement. I want to do special episodes, right? So we've got these daily podcasts, 10-minute episodes. It's great. I want to every now and then do an episode with a guest. It's a bit longer, 30 minutes to an hour. I've done guest episodes in the past. But look, here's the thing. I need your help because, I mean, this isn't a big show. This is small. And so if you are one of the few listeners, they're going, I have some ideas. I've done some things for my own streetwear brand, and I have an idea of something that I'd like to share with everybody else or talk to me about, then please send me an email. I would love to feature you in an episode. So I want you to go to your inbox, write an email to Elijah@ElijahDelport.com. That's LIJ@ElijahDelport.com. I'll also have my email below in the description box. And I want you to tell me who you are, what your brand is, and one thing that you would talk about on the episode. What would your episode be about? Right? And this is if you want to be featured. And look, I'll see the response. It's not an absolute yes. If you send me an email, it's a maybe. But look, it's like think of it like an application. So look, if you'd like to feature, please send me an email. Otherwise, join a community of 100 plus streetwear brand owners who are also motivated doing what you're doing. There's a link in the description to join Streetwear 365. I've also got a free marketing course in there. But thanks very much for listening, and I will see you tomorrow for another one.